Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Ketty podcast series. I'm Ketty Gostaspi, and the mission of my podcast is for us to truly realize that we are great no matter what role and what career and what business we run and who we are. And I also want us to remember that we can be even greater than we already think we are. But most importantly, how are we going to bring this greatness to the world through a quote unquote brand? Why I do this podcast, two reasons, like I always say. First reason is I really truly care about humanity deeply, and I want us all to see how great we really are, to be happier and sleep better at night. Second reason, hey, look, I struggle with my own feelings of being less than, just like everyone else. I have my own issues and challenges. Some days are ugly for me, and I learn from my guests and from my audience. So that's why I do it. And this time we are super duper fortunate in the podcast to have April McLaughlin. April is an estate planning attorney and she is out in Kansas City. Well, April, tell me correctly the town exactly.
Harrisonville.
Harrisonville.
Harrisonville. Yeah.
Yep. So welcome, April.
Thank you.
I'm super excited to have you because I think you've got so much wisdom for this audience. It's just natural wisdom that rolls off your tongue anytime we talk. And I just want to be able to share it with everybody else. So tell us whatever you want us to know about you and maybe something that you don't want us to know about you too.
Ooh, there's lots of that. Um, I I am the daughter of a funeral director and a business owner, and somehow, accidentally, I ended up marrying those two and becoming an attorney who works with people dealing with preparing for death or after they've passed away. And so I didn't necessarily anticipate this is where I would end up, although I always wanted to be a lawyer and I've always really enjoyed business. But I also watched my mom struggle being a business owner and never thought I would own my own business. I always thought I'd work for somebody else. But uh, through the grace of God and grit, here I am. So I do primarily estate planning, probate, and I have a little practice on a historic square in a small town and um, have a staff of two besides myself and my dog Isaac. And we just really enjoy each other and what we're doing. And we're in the process of transforming the business into something that allows us to have more peace and enjoyment with what we do and give a higher level of um, uh, help to our clients, give them a level of service where they feel good when they leave too. So, um, and then if I had to say something that I might not want you to know, that's kind of tough because I'm a no skeletons kind of girl. So I am a recovering drug addict and law school flunky who had to claw her way back in when I had an infant. And I wasn't a drug user when I was an infant, when I had an infant. But yeah, getting here was not easy, but it was
Amen.
worth it.
Amen. This is what I love about you, April. For all of you guys listening, April is so accomplished and her practice is doing so well after how many years of practice now?
17.
17 years of practice. And she really is the bright example of what a small town practice could be like in terms of monetary size, but in terms of customer service. Yet my favorite part of you is the rawness and the vulnerability and your honesty. And that really, I mean, your business is 100% referral. And
It is.
it's because you show up honest and sincere and you're okay talking about your past because you've figured out that your past doesn't really dictate who you are now, but it enriches it, frankly, if we had to talk about that. And I wrote down what you said. I want to unpack this. Transforming your business, you guys are in the process of transforming your business so that, quote, you said, we have more peace and enjoy what we do and give a higher level of service to our clients. And that I really want to almost take a pause, dead air, to let that sink in, because that is really what I would hope for every professional listening out there, that they get to a point, hopefully sooner than later, but whenever it happens, where you realize that the peace and enjoyment of your business is critically important to the business success and your ability to give better customer service. Now, would you say that over time that's exactly what's happened? The more peace and enjoyment you have in your practice, the better customer service you've been able to give and the more successful it's been?
Definitely. Um, I'm not sure that I would have realized that as we were moving through these different stages, but in
Mm.
retrospect, I mean, of course, I always want to think I've always given good service, and I think that I have, or else I wouldn't have been able to grow the business at all. But
Like,
um, it is so true that when there's a calmness and you have the right team and everybody's doing their part and they feel like they're valuable and everybody has a purpose toward the end goal, the other stuff just sort of settles into place. You end up getting the clients that cause less stress. Or maybe you're able to handle them in a way that it doesn't become stressful. I don't know. It's probably a little bit of both. Um, but it certainly makes things easier. And to me, easier and less drama is more peaceful. And, that's one of the reasons I needed to transition my business, because what I was doing before was so incredibly stressful that I literally felt like it was going to kill me. I felt like the business was just suffocating me.
so tell the audience about that. So, this transition that you made from what to what, and now we know the impetus that it was literally suffocating you. That's a big word, but it's very eloquent, and we can all feel that because we've all sat in those shoes. So, for those of you who are listening or thinking, oh my gosh, that's me, well, listen to what April did and how she went about doing it so that, you can find your own version of that.
Well, I think it was sort of accidental and sort of divine intervention and sort of trying to find the silver lining. But I've always been interested in estate planning and probate, and I purchased a practice from a gentleman who'd been here in this exact building for 40 years doing that. But I started out just because, you eat what you kill whenever you come out of law school. Like, you got to make money. I had a family to support, I had a little kid. And so you just take what comes in the door, and that was domestic and lots of it. And although originally that wasn't really my intent, I ended up specializing in that and doing
Well,
very well in that.
let me interrupt you. For those who aren't lawyers who are listening, but they're going to get the same value, can you expand a little bit on what domestic means, quote unquote?
Uh, it's it is divorces, cases regarding custody, and I would say the custody piece is the most stressful part of it when you're dealing with kids and people fighting over kids. Money, I think, is pretty easy. Money's kind of black and white. The law is what the law is when it comes to money. It's the kids stuff where
Mm.
there's so many shades of gray and so many variables, and
And
everybody
emotion.
is just really going after each other. And although I'm an attorney, I am not in my own life particularly high conflict. And although I did well at it, it wasn't something I particularly enjoyed. There were moments that I enjoyed doing that when I felt like I was really doing something for someone, where there was some sort of like moral compass involved in it. But
Mm.
sometimes there isn't. And, uh, another attorney friend of mine who did almost exclusively domestic and was also very, very good at it and retired recently. She and I used to jokingly say, we're prostitutes. We are whores for money, because why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we killing ourselves? Why are we miserable? And it was getting to the point where not that I didn't want to come to work, because I really do love my work, but there just wasn't enough time in the day. And the stuff that I really liked doing was getting smothered by all the stuff that was taking up all of the time.
Yeah.
So, domestic is primarily divorces and custody cases, people in, separating assets and kids. But I had this other little side gig with the estate planning and probate. It wasn't really a side gig. It was decent, but I couldn't grow it because the domestic was just so overwhelming, and it took so much of the bandwidth. And even if it was 70% of the income, it was taking 90% of the bandwidth. And so
Wow.
it left very little left over for the stuff that I really wanted to do. And then COVID hit. And so a meeting with a friend brought Kati's name up. And I thought, I'm right in this transition. I'm freaking out because of COVID. I still have money coming in the door, but not as much as I want. I need to be taking this time to figure out where this business is going to go. COVID, especially in the beginning, was more of a blessing than a curse. And in retrospect, what I realized was how dangerously close I was to probably a nervous breakdown. I'm not 100% sure, but I was I was so stressed out, I did not have time to realize how stressed out I was. And
Mm.
COVID gave me the time to start thinking. And then I thought, well, if you're ever going to hire somebody to help you out with this, now is the time. And it really was divine intervention that, Kati, I was able to connect with you, and you were able to take me on this mess of I'm a mess. Actually, I'm not a mess, not anymore.
You are not a mess, and it was
Ugh.
a pleasure. But really, I so applaud you, and I hope the audience is getting this as takeaway that it takes a level of self awareness that you had to stop and go, this domestic stuff is making me crazy. And I don't want to be extroverting and working for pay, like you said, a prostitute, because it's not what I want to do for the rest of my career. It's not what I signed up for. So many of us, I hope when you're listening to this, if this is you, you really do stop and see, look, if April did it, if I did it, you can do it, right? It doesn't have to be drastic. It can be gradual. Because April, how long did it take you to make this transition working with me? But work with somebody or do it on your own, whatever. Just have self-awareness at first. That's the point. But in the overall scheme of things, if someone's sitting here listening to you going, oh, I don't have the time for that, or I just have to pay the bills, or I got kids in school, or I'm pregnant, or whatever, like don't have the time or the bandwidth. How long did it take you?
Well, I mean, I bought this practice from an estate planning attorney 15 years ago, 2 years into my law career. And then I spent the next 13 years with it not being the priority. And it's only been it's been more than a year and a half, but not quite 2 years, that I've been working with you, getting serious about it. I mean, I was doing things that I could think of to try and grow that side and diminish the other, but I was not being very successful at it, in part because I didn't know how to do it. And secondly, I didn't have the time to just sit down and try to figure it out. I was in triage all the time. There was always
Well,
so much to do that it would have felt like I was being lazy or a luxury to sit down and try to map out how to get there. And I knew that if I didn't have, just like with anything else, if I don't have a professional to help me figure out whether it's a CPA or a banker or a therapist or whatever, if I don't have somebody who knows what they're doing to help me figure it out, even if I could figure it out on my own, I'm not going to make the time to do it.
absolutely, because we can only put our attention on so many things if we're not held accountable. Now, what are you going to say to somebody who's listening and go, well, COVID's over. It was a great gift. I didn't use it the way you did, April. So that time is up, and I still don't have the time to do it. You did only because of COVID.
I would say that if I knew pre-COVID, if I knew then what I know now, you just have to make the time, because we all get to pick our poison, and we all get to decide what our priorities are. And if there's an area that you know you need work on, then you it doesn't, COVID or not, you have to make it a priority. And if you're serious about wanting to, whether for me it was transitioning my business, for someone else that might be out there, I don't know what other things it might be. It's like, how bad do you want it? If you want it, you'll find the time, you'll carve it out, you'll have your paralegal, in my case, or your receptionist or your office manager put it on the calendar and make it happen. You'll put it on the calendar and you'll protect that time. And um, you know, nobody can make you do it, but it's how much, how much do you value your own mental health? How much do you value your own personal time? How badly do you want to stay within working 40 hours a week? Do you want to keep working 60 hours a week and not reach your goals? I mean, I don't know. I think it's just, I don't know the easy answer to that, but
Well, it sounds like what you're saying so eloquently can be summarized that how much do you value your own health and welfare?
yeah,
And that's so easy to forget about because, like I said to you earlier, no one ever died laying on their deathbed going, gosh, I wish I'd made that extra buck, or I didn't make enough money, or I wish I'd told so and so off, or I wish I'd fired that client, or I wish I'd changed careers. That's not what the end is about, right? It's about how good we feel about how we were, who we were in our life, and the forgiveness and how generous and kind we were to ourselves as well as to others. And it starts with what we give is what we receive. So, how are we taking care of ourselves? Whenever you guys are listening to this is fine, but right now, as we're recording this, it's October of 2022 and it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And being a breast cancer survivor, I'm keenly aware of this fact that it's about wellness and the wholeness of who we are. And you, by stopping and saying, I'm serious about this and I don't want to have a nervous breakdown and be in triage mode all the time. That is the most critical question. And what you're really saying is because I love myself and I want to see my grandchildren and I want to have a life outside of being a practicing lawyer. It's about you knowing your identity versus your role, right? Your identity is as a child of whatever you want to call it, God, something bigger, like there's a bigger purpose. Your role, one of your roles is as a lawyer, the other one's a mom, the other one's a name it, right? So you took that time to make that happen. And that's really what I'm hoping people will walk away from. And you saw the results of it because you prioritized not just being in the business, but working on the business, but on yourself. Fair?
fair. But I will say internally, there was some kicking and screaming,
Of
and
course.
maybe not always internally, but you when you finally make that big decision and you commit the time and money and energy into doing it, you better surround yourself with good professionals who know what the hell they're doing, or you're going to lose the momentum. And I mean, yes, I did the work, but I had someone who was encouraging me and stretching me and following up with me and holding me accountable. And you know um I have self-esteem issues, and that's obvious. That's also not a secret. But there were
We all
so
do.
many things that you would say that I would say, no, that doesn't apply to me. Like, no, I can't do that. No, I don't see myself that way. And you really did help me um, realize so many things about myself that I didn't know, and kind of fostered those and encouraged those and helped me bring those out. And I'm still working on a lot of that stuff too. And will probably be working on for the rest of my life. But, um, you know, I think the special thing about working with you, Katya, although I've not worked with anybody else, so I don't have anything to compare it to, um, is that it felt more like a friendship, and like you really did care. You do care. I know that. I never felt like I was talking to someone who was just trying to, earn a fee. You have always taken such a true invested interest. You will bring up things from a year ago that I said. I don't know how you remember. Um, and that's really important when you're not sure it's something that you can afford to do, time wise or money wise. You really, if this hadn't worked out with you and me, I probably would have never tried it again. You know what I mean? Like I probably would have just been um, disenchanted with the whole idea of finding someone to help me through this. And so um, I'm just so grateful that we connected on this level, that I felt like I could do the work. You helped me feel like I could do it at times when I did not think I could.
Well, I'm truly humbled and honored, and thank you. And I will say it takes two to tango. So for those of you who are listening, she was willing to step up and get extremely uncomfortable and raw and real and look at herself. And that's what makes great successes out of people, frankly. It's not the business that makes you the success, it's being able to stop and say, I'm going to get really uncomfortable with myself, and I'm going to be really raw and real with myself, and I'm just going to go there, and I'm just going to acknowledge that it's not fun and easy. And knowing though the rewards are, yeah, the business, the practice, whatever your career is will flourish, because you've gone through and unearthed and excavated the stuff that was blocking all of that, and the healing that happens, and then getting to know yourself and then putting that out to market, because you can't do it any other way. So you were the one that showed up and said, I'll do it. So if you're listening, it starts with you being willing to do this work for yourself, because no one's going to be able to do it for you. And it's not a sprint, it truly is a marathon, because it does require thought, right? So April, if you had to summarize your lesson that you want the audience to get from this process, from your perspective, what would it be? And by the way, we should note, you tell them what the end result is. Well, there's never an end, like you said, it's continuing, but domestic is now where in your practice, and what was the goal?
Um, the goal was to completely get out of domestic. And we damn near did that. We got right there to the edge. And I realized I still wanted to do a little bit. I just wanted to cherry pick them. I only wanted to do certain ones because I don't want to sound boastful. I am good at it. And there are parts of it that fed my soul, my ego, maybe. Like some of it felt good. I just didn't want to do so much of it. So I have retained a little bit of that. And, but I would say that it has almost flip flopped as far as bandwidth and, um, and the financial piece of it, how much money I'm making. And so it's a lot more estate planning and probate, which is the stuff I love. It's, even though it's kind of sad because you're dealing with death, it's feel good stuff for me. My clients, you know, we shake hands, we hug sometimes now. Pre-COVID, we did a lot. Sometimes we still do, but it's um, people feel good when they leave here. It's people are happy, and with domestic, it's not quite as much, but I get a little bit of that as well. Um, it's yeah. I'm not. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, well,
I went
you
somewhere. I can't remember where I went.
part of my question about the fact that the goal was to stop doing domestic, and you did. And then the beautiful part, for those of you who are really listening on what she's saying, is you got to then deliberately and intentionally decide to do domestic versus doing something because it paid the bills.
Right.
And where then you are just trapped in it and a victim of it and stuck to it.
Right.
And that is so disempowering. It truly is. So what is that one bit of advice that you want to leave us with?
Um, I would say I, many thoughts come to mind, but no one is going to take care of you or your business except for you. Nobody's going to do it for you. It's probably not going to happen magically. And if it's important to you and your quality of life, then you'll do it. You'll make the time, you'll find the money, you'll take the leap of faith. But um, if you're thinking about it, it's probably a good time. You know,
Mm.
if it's in the forefront of your mind, you probably ought to do something about it because, I remember when I was a kid and I thought opportunities would just always abound. Things would always be there, things would always happen. Opportunities don't always present themselves. And when there's an opportunity to do something, if you're scared, it's probably the right time. Nothing's just going to happen um, magically at the perfect moment when you have, your bank account is flush with cash and you have all the time in the world and your life is calm and things in business. That's not when it's going to happen. You have to take care of yourself. Nobody else is going to do it for you.
Oh, so well said. So well said. I almost want to end the podcast there, except that I want to ask you, you're not perfect, like you said, no one is. So what's the challenge that's on your plate now and how can we work together? How can I coach you
Mm. Well,
through it?
I would say I don't know if this is what you're necessarily asking, but I would say, like, immediately right now, my biggest challenge is, I'm in the middle of recreating this website and I'm not enjoying this process at all because it requires talking about myself and writing about myself and photographs of myself and um, video and it's all the things that make me very uncomfortable. I just want to be a lawyer. I just want to meet my clients, look at them eye to eye and get to know them and smile and have that genuine connection. All of this like social media stuff just makes me cringe. Internet, website stuff makes me cringe. So I am much like hiring you, Kati, hiring a professional. You hire professional people to help you with those things too, and you have to you have to hire professionals that you trust, and then you better fucking trust them and
I
fall
love
for
it.
it, because if you don't trust them, then you need to go someplace else. But you need to
The way
surround yourself with trustworthy professionals who have your back because they can make your life easier, or at least they can soften the blow while you're going through uncomfortable things.
so what you said has so much merit, and I bet you 99% of the audience is going, oh yeah, that's me. I just want to do my job and not deal with the social media and the focus on me and my and who am I and the website. Yet here's the coaching for you. In that same breath, you also said, I just want to show up in front of my clients and connect with them and work with them and have that relationship. Well, that's all the social media and website stuff is bringing to light. People aren't hiring you because you're a fantastic estate planning attorney. They don't know that about you, April, when they first start. They're just hiring this woman that they've seen somewhere in social media or they've gotten a referral from. Two, because she was nice, because she brought her whole self to work, because she sits in front of the clients and is authentic and real and talks about the stuff that we just want to put on the website so that, you're one person. You can't show up in front of people all the time like that, but they can go to the web, they can go to a video, they can see a picture of you and get that same feel and vibe from you. So that's all we're doing. We're taking that demonstrative evidence of you being with a client and we're just putting it in a still setting where that shows up. The brand just shows up naturally, because otherwise we'd have to put you live in front of people all the time. And how that works, the live part is, that's called the referral base, right? the clients have a great experience with you. They say, so and so, you should hire April. So and so goes to your website and substantiates that feel that they get from you is the same feel as that client told them. And they're like, okay, she's legit. Now, are you legit as a lawyer? They don't know that. They don't care. As long as you've got your bar license, and some of them might be savvy and Google you to make sure you haven't gotten disbarred or been reprimanded. 99% of people don't. Even me as a lawyer, I mean, I hired a lawyer once and my husband's like, did you Google them? I'm like, no, how did you even think to do that? You're not a lawyer. He's like, oh, you shouldn't you? And I thought, I guess I should, but I just trust that, if you're still practicing, that means you know what you're doing. But they're hiring the person, the human being. And so reframe that for yourself. Look at it from that perspective that they're hiring you because you are you. And we want to bring out as many aspects of the real you, the authentic April, which is all people get. I know that because that's why your business is so gangbuster big, because people love the real you, and that's who shows up in front of them with a tough matter. I don't see domestic being any tougher than estate planning, in my opinion, from certain angles, right? Because it's a difficult conversation to have. And I know they all say they love you afterwards and how kind you were, and the hugs are because, hey, they feel that from you. I mean, I've had my estate plan done and I did not hug my estate planning lawyer. She just wasn't warm and fuzzy. She just did her thing and okay, it worked, but it's different. So that's all we're trying to capture. So if you can reframe that you're just trying to bring that authenticity to a website, into a video, into pictures, so that it stays there long term for people to be able to consume 4 o'clock in the morning when they're thinking about their loved ones or something's going wrong and they just find you on the web. That will probably make that process a lot more fun for you. And the end result will reflect that fun and liveliness and that harmony of who you really are. Does that make sense?
It does. I hope I can really tap into that in those moments when I'm feeling self conscious and nervous. And, you know, I just, photography and all those things, they just feel very, you know, uh, fake. Like I just, oof, oof.
I
But
like
I'm sorry.
I like you say that because that's a really good point. The version of photography that we have in our minds as everyday people is like supermodels or the Victoria's Secret whatever show. But photography is just capturing the essence of us in still print, some version of that. That's all it is. So it doesn't have to be fake. It could just be you enjoying life, and somebody's just snapped a moment in time of that.
Right. I'm going to try and remember that.
Don't
And again,
remember it, just
it's
feel
back to
into
the
it.
professionals. You hire people who know what they're doing, and you have to trust that they know what they're doing. And I'm good at being a lawyer. I'm good at managing my people. I'm not good at a lot of other things. And you know, that's you got to get help for those things, and I have to get help for those things and trust that process.
Well, and we're not all good at everything, and we're not supposed to be. We're all a work in progress. And the fact is, April, you're a good human being, and that's all we want for anybody. So, for all the listeners who are saying, I'm not good at X, Y, and Z either, that's okay. The point is to be a good human being who has a plan for their life that involves service and kindness does belong in business, in my opinion, and I know you believe in that too. And then letting others support you, but on your terms, whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So the reframe on social media and photography is just that, it's just a tool to capture the essence of who you really are, and nothing more, nothing less. And trusting yourself more than the professionals, the rest of us. Trusting yourself that you're being guided to do something because
Mm.
it is meaningful and it's part of the bigger picture and the process and the plan.
Oh, that's such a good point. I am learning to trust myself more. Um, and there are certain areas, of course, that I trust myself in every way. But I do I have good instincts. I need to
You do.
trust my instincts. and lean in and try to enjoy this process, because it is true that doing things that make you uncomfortable, that's where the growth occurs. Wasn't it what Kurt Vonnegut who said, do one thing every day that scares you?
Yes.
um, so
Very good.
yeah.
All right. Well, any last final words for us before I let you go?
Thank you. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that we we've done a lot of work in a relatively short period of time, considering, and um, my life and my stress level are better for it, and so my quality of life is better, and the control I have over my life and my business, and it's I'm controlling my business instead of it hijacking my life, and I'm just so grateful that I figured it out now, that I didn't retire miserable, or worse yet, you know, have a nervous breakdown or whatever. I'm so grateful.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you for showing up. I want to thank my audience. I hope you get a nugget of wisdom from April's experiences and can use it for yourself, adapt it, and apply it. And above all else, be courageous. Go out there and do one thing every day that makes you uncomfortable, as April said, or think about it at least. But the thing is, time is going by regardless. And change is going to happen. It's inevitable. And whether you want to be in control of that cycle or not is always your choice. And there's never a right and wrong. Everybody's moment will come at the right time. We got to trust the universe around that. However, the faster, the sooner you take control of that for yourself, the more you'll enjoy your life, the more you'll serve your purpose, and the more fun you'll have. You'll be making more money, going to bed, sleeping sounder, and enjoying those moments in your life that isn't about work and is about your personal life and flourishing. And I think that is incredibly important. So, with that note, thank you, thank you, thank you, April McLaughlin, for giving us your time. If people want to find you somehow, what is your website address so they can connect with you or read more about you? Share that with us.
My website is aprilmclaughlin.com, but you can also get there by aprillaw.com if you don't know how to spell my
April.
last name.
That's right, aprillaw.com, and it will be a revised website maybe by
Yes.
the time you're listening to this, and maybe not, but it's always a work in progress. And I want to thank everyone for joining me. And until next time, another episode of Ketiji TV. Or sorry, this is the podcast. Funny, funny. I will see you guys later and enjoy your life. And we hope that this podcast has been of benefit.